We're live. Hey, this is super duper cool. Welcome to what we're going to call episode 72 of the Athletic Philosopher Podcast. I've been experimenting with a little bit of live streaming as I've been recording these podcasts. Today is the very first time I am doing the live stream over on Substack. So shout out to all of my Substack people. This is the place where you can find my longer form writing articles and some different takes that I put in the notes, which is kind of like the posts or like the short form tweets uh, out on Substack. So I'm very excited to be doing that today. What is this? Well, this is the podcast that I host. I am your humble host, Jordan Goldstein, former university professor in sport history, philosophy, sociology, psychology. Used to do my professing inside the university. Things happened. Human rights were trampled upon. Principles, values had to be upheld. I don't work there anymore. You can deduce whatever you want from that. And now I do my philosophizing on Substack, on Twitter, but also here on my podcast. And we are deep in the world of coaching. I have my own very special, very unique blend of fitness and life coaching intertwined. I do one-on-one coaching for individuals. I also do a group, which I call the Temple, which is like a collection of dudes that are looking to use physical training as a spiritual self-knowing practice. And in this way, we become better versions of ourselves in body, mind, and spirit, pushing ourselves in physical training and in competition, and then opening up and sharing about ourselves in a deep, vulnerable, but very empowering way. And what I'm going to talk about today is related to the world of endurance sports, but the principles and the lessons and the values are things that I am able to translate into other types of physical practices. And the guys that I coach, some of them turn into endurance athletes, others stay in the gym, others pick up combat sports. We got a guy who's doing some mad endurance trek, which is not necessarily even related to a race. We just sort of created the competition for him. So if you are interested in some of the coaching services that I offer, because I just intertwine my thoughts with some of the actions that I do as a coach, and you may be thinking, ooh, I might need to talk to this guy. All my information will be in the show notes page on how you can get in contact with me about those coaching options. I also serve as an assistant coach, as the tribal professor on tribal training, which is run by the excellent Brian Dreyer. And I am a mindset performance coach where I bring in this, again, what is the meaning? What is the value? What is the purpose of dedicating so much of our lives to training and competing, especially when we are busy professionals, busy, fathers, husbands. We serve in the community. We have ambitions pardon me, we have ambitions in side projects or in giving back. And why do we take all this time? What is the actual meaning of what we're doing here? Um, I talk a lot about the team experiences. I brought on a couple of my teammates for interviews, given that we ran a 50 miler in the desert just 3 short weeks ago or 3 long weeks ago. And I'll drop the information there if you're interested in hooking up with a group of guys who we'll say are a little bit more serious about the athletic training portion of this. Um, but there's also really cool things going on there. So I'll drop both those links. I'll also drop my Substack link and my X link if you want to follow me on socials to get a sense of my thoughts. Certainly longer form over on Substack and in the pieces that I'm writing, but also over on X where it's a little more short form and a little bit more shoot from the gun, shoot from the hip. And I'm also building out a few things on my website for my Phi Academy, which I'll be dropping in maybe sporadically over the next couple of episodes here as I continue to build. But that's my little intro spiel. Just a quick shout out to the people who are watching this on Substack. Thank you so much for your patronage. Feel free. I am looking down at the chat every now and again. So if you have a question or an interjection, put it in there and I'm happy to make this a little more interactive. Otherwise, we're just going to get going for today. And today's topic is kind of an interesting topic. And I want to sort of break down endurance sports and the kind of people that I see finding a lot of success in endurance sports. And I had this thought, not surprisingly, as we finished up this 50-mile trail ultra that we did down in Oracle, Arizona, a couple of weekends ago. And I was reflecting a little bit on the difference between myself and Coach Ryan, who are both endurance athletes. I think we share a lot of the same values and sort of the same like deep underpinnings of why we, have gravitated towards endurance and why we believe endurance sports are these profound teachers of life wisdom, and they're able to point us in noble directions. Um, for the ways in which we live, but also in the ways in which we're able to better understand ourselves in the place as individuals living in this world. And I think this is likely going to end up into some sort of a two-parter because I have a very deep conceptual take on all of this as to why sports actually do point us towards like deep truths, not just about ourselves, but about like consciousness and our place in the universe. And I've explored some of these themes in different episodes, but I'm going to save kind of the two big reasons why I think sports point to truth. I'm going to save that for maybe we'll call it like an appendix episode onto this one because I do kind of think they're going to blend together. But today's episode is really two different kinds of endurance athletes, two different kinds of people who gravitate towards these sports, what they're looking for, what they're hoping to find, and how endurance gives them this arena to be more, we'll say, self aware, self curious, self investigative, self interrogative. Is that even a word? Yeah, why not? Um, and what these different parts of the endurance world allow us to know about ourselves. Okay, so first thing to sort of note about the difference between Coach Ryan and I. I'm going to break down endurance into two categories. It's obvious that these are not hard and fast, that there's a lot of gray and there's a lot of nuance in between. But for simplicity's sake of the argument, we're just going to start to break things into dichotomies. I'm actually not a big fan of dichotomies. I'm much more a fan of dualist or dualities, um, things that are connected but different, as opposed to things that are separated but different. I'm a paradox respecter. Come on, I kind of love the duality. But there's two kinds of athletes. And I've broken it down into this. There's endurance athletes who go for the space, and there's endurance athletes who go for the chase. Okay, so we got space athletes and we got chase athletes. And both space and chase, they have parts of each other. Think of it like the yin and yang. Okay, so the space got a little bit of the chase in it, the chase got a little bit of the space. But I think Coach Ryan and I are very good representations of who's the space guy and who's the chase guy. Coach Ryan is a guy who wanted to perform to the best of his athletic ability inside of an endurance context. This is the guy who trained like 900 days for his very first 70.3, not because he was afraid to get in the arena for that long, but because of COVID and all these things that kept getting in the way. It allowed him to really develop his skills so that when he got into his first 70.3, he was able to qualify for world championships like right away. Like, so we're talking about a high level athlete here. When we're talking about like racing for performance, like we're chasing the clock. We're chasing the clock. We're chasing the competitor that's right in front of us. Like we're chasing the result, which is good. And he translated that into this chase for Ironman World Championship, so the full Ironman. And this took him maybe a little bit longer than he anticipated, given the immediate success that he had with the 70.3. But pardon me, eventually he was able to achieve his goal, qualify for Ironman World Championships, and then go fulfill that dream this past summer over in France, in Nice, right? And he is always this wanting the next thing. What is the next big challenge? Where can I improve? Like there's this chasing element that defines his experience inside of endurance sports and that he believes brings out the best of him. And you can just see this in the way that he loves the bike and he loves the speed element of the bike. And there's this kind of joke going around of some of the inside circles that we have on social media. Um, there's this guy, Zach Pogrub. He's the obsession guy on Instagram. He's building this Share Aura app where we turn our workouts into pieces of art. He's got backgrounds, but you can use your photos, you can use movie scenes. Like it's cool what he's doing because he's getting to the artistic and expressive side of sport, which I appreciate very much so. But it's funny because he was like a running guy or obsessed with running guy, and all of a sudden he got a bike and he's now obsessed with the bike, and he makes this quip like maybe I've just been a speed guy all along. Like maybe I just love speed. Maybe I just love the chase. Maybe I just love the chase. Right. And Coach Ryan was all over that with his bikes. Like, yeah, I'm a speed guy. It's always been about speed because he loves bombing on his bike and he loves feeling the thrill of the chase. Right. And that's not to say that he doesn't appreciate the space. This is a guy who's gone out and done like 100-mile ultras, and certainly doesn't always have to be going, 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 going. But when you look at the kind of endurance athlete that he is, it's clear that he's a little bit more gravitated towards the chasing element, towards the racing, towards the performance, towards the speed, towards the ways in which that part of the experience brings out the best parts of himself. Okay. So he's a chase athlete. What does a space athlete look like? Well, that's this guy. I'm the space athlete. I want to get lost. I want the adventure. I want the time away from demand. I want to be able to go and run into the forest and put away my phone and forget about the recording. And I just want to be away from it all in terms of modernity, responsibilities of people going after me, the news, whatever. It's like there's always this bombardment in modernity. There's always input. There's always input. Now I want to get away from it. I want the open space. I want to go for 50 miles in the desert because it's an excuse to be in nature for 15 hours. Like, I want to go fast. I want to race. I want to do well, but that is like not the thing that is driving me out into these experiences. I want the space to explore myself. I want the space to get involved with other people, to coach them, to learn about them, to see the human spirit in action, to go to the depths, to go to the highs, to feel it all in between, to live many different lives all inside of one gigantic effort. I want the space. Now, I also love the chase. I love going faster. I love pushing the body. I love feeling that exhaustion. But in terms of what like keeps me going, it's the space. That's the thing that I love more than anything. Like I love competitions, but I kind of get annoyed at the competitions because they take me out of my flow where I'm finding the space. My weekly sacred long run, which is my own time to myself. I need the space. So we end up with these two different areas inside of endurance sports. We get the athletes who are there for the space and the athletes that are there for the chase. Now, I haven't really thought too much through as to where we're going to go in this podcast based on these two things, but here's a way that I think we can start to understand these two parts, right? When we think about dichotomies in the world, there's a lot of them. One of the ones that pops into my mind immediately when thinking about this dichotomy of space and chase is like the type A versus the type B, or the right brain versus the left brain, and what kind of pulls people towards one or the other. And when we think like right brain or left brain, and I'm totally going to get this wrong, but it doesn't matter. I got a 50% chance either way. Um, the right brain, that's like the analytical one, right? And the left brain, that's the feeling creative one. And I think for creative style, like creative open people, kind of like me, even though I have a strong analytical component in my mind, like I've got a math computer up here that works and it works really well. But that's not the part of me that's like animating. That's not the part of me that is fully alive when I feel like I'm at my best. For me, that's my creative side. That's writing music. That's writing philosophy. That's arguing. That's my book. That's being a professor and a teacher and crafting ways to bring people into complicated and complex ideas that's approachable and that's digestible and that's going to really impact and teach that person something about that deep idea or that deep concept. So for me, I'm very much this like open space, creative person, stretching the boundaries. I love space. I work well in space. The artists, they thrive in the space. They thrive in the chaos, right? They're the ones who go outside of what is normal in order to find something new to bring it back. Like this, their personal heroic journey for the artist is to go out into space, is to go out into the space. And that's one of the reasons we see a lot of people gravitating, let's say, to the world of ultra running, as opposed to, say, the world of ultra triathlon, right? Ultra triathlon, like Ironman 70.3, and maybe I'm just talking to myself about this because I'm an ultra runner who's now training for triathlon, or we'll say resisting training from triathlon, given if you look at my Strava over the past month, kind of lean on the other two sports there. Lots of running, not so much biking, not so much swimming. So maybe this is actually some sort of a interesting conversation to myself about recognizing limitations and how certain types of endurance sports can allow me to grow to grow myself and to become more complete, to improve my character here. So maybe that's actually what we're doing. Kind of cool. Emergence is a very cool property. You don't necessarily need to start out knowing where you're going to go, but you got a sort of an aim, and through the action, the heart of the matter emerges. So the space athletes, right, they tend to, in my observation, and again, this is just my contention, like there's no sources or whatever. This is just I've done ultras, I've seen people compete in the Ironmans, I'm about to compete in them myself, so I'm thinking about these all the time. The left-brained, creative, open people, they tend to work well in the ultra setting because it's a space environment. Yes, there's the chase in terms of you got to beat the clock, right? You got to beat the cutoff, or maybe you want to improve upon your performance. But it's mostly that ability to get out there and learn about myself. I need the space so that I can examine myself. It's the space so that I can challenge myself. It's the space so that I can know myself. It's the space so that I can merge myself with nature and the natural challenges, right? That is the thing that drives people in the space category. And that's 1,000% apparent as well in the chase people, right? Because there's a million ways to chase, but if you're chasing in an event that's 6 hours long or 12 hours long, it's clear you also appreciate something about the open space too, right? That's why it's better to think about these as like yin and yang, a little bit of one in the other, a little bit of that one in this one, not hard and fast dichotomies. And there's never a chase athlete that doesn't have a space inside of them. And there's never a space athlete that also doesn't have to chase, right? Because why else be in a race? I could just hike, right? I could just be out in nature. I could hike, but I want to put a time on it and I want to use the pressure and the crucible of the time, right, to chase. But I think the space athletes generally are the more open, creative types. And I think the chase athletes are generally more the type A, the planning, the executing, the preparing, find specific details of the matter. That works out really well in the chase. And that plays really well in an Ironman, especially something with the bike. I'm looking at a bike right now, and I know that there's a few small little mechanical things that I could be doing on that bike that are going to have a giant leverage in terms of my ability to make it go faster without as much effort. I know that I can do things to myself that will also make it easier for me to go faster. There are lots of tiny little leverage plays that I can use on a bike to eke out 5% more, 10% more, um, 15% more. And that's going to really tilt somebody towards like the chasing element of this. It's like, oh, I'm in control of these variables. I can see myself getting faster. Yes, I can train myself, but also like I can think my way to getting faster. I can use my smarts. I can use the rational part of me and I can chase. Like I can chase a better version of myself, not just through grunting it out a little more hard, but I can actually like strategize. I can be smart about this. And there's a certain type of person that just gravitates towards that type of challenge. You know what I mean? And that's fine. And I see those people generally gravitating more towards the triathlon part of the endurance world, where there's a lot more preparation, there's a lot more planning, there's a lot of more of a logistical element. And that's clearly the case in the ultras that you need to plan and you need to be you need to be thinking about it. But like you go to the start of an ultra marathon and it's like 200 crazy people in the middle of the desert, middle of nowhere. And everyone, it's more like a bohemian arts festival. It's like a folk festival. It's like a music festival. It's just like vibes are totally different. The person that's solely there to chase is likely also some sort of a weirdo, some sort of a bohemia. And if it's like this dialed up, like serious for business, we're here to really like perform hard, the energy's not really there. It's just not a match. Like even the fastest ultra runners, they're kind of quirky. Like they're just kind of they're strange. I like the Courtney Dauwalters of the world, right? Fifth grade science teacher who just likes to run forever in the mountains and fuels themselves off candy. It was a bit shocking for some people when David Roche came into the ultra running world as this coach with this very chase oriented mindset. Um, like I'm gonna rewrite the way we do the ultras. I'm gonna train my gut looking at competitive eaters because it's basically just a glorified eating competition. I'm gonna go as fast as possible, and I'm gonna need to eating an obscene amount of carbs every hour in order to keep my body able to pump out this high effort, right? And he smashed the Leadville course record because of it. But that's not typical. That's just not typical in the ultra world. And a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way by David Roche. And to be fair, David Roche is again kind of like a weirdo, who experiments with eating like that. And his whole thing is like play around and have fun, right? So even he, in the sense of like what a coach looks like, who's focusing on performance, he's not. He doesn't even look like a normal coach who's focusing on performance, right? There's this space element to the ultra world, which just pulls a different kind of person than the Iron Man, which pulls a much more chase chase oriented person, right? And I think this is great. And I've long held that endurance athletes, if you're an endurance athlete, and I'm cashing my own check as I do this, right? I think endurance athletes, you don't do yourself any service by being in one discipline or the other. I think it's very important for you to expose yourself to both. And I've seen so many of these chase guys or these right brain guys thriving in the world of the ultras because it's a totally different environment and they end up merging with the space part of it, and you have these gigantic unlocks and these breakthroughs. Um, and I really appreciate some of my teammates for shouting out my role in facilitating this in terms of like, I'm this planning, I'm this gotta know all the steps. I don't like the variables that are not in my play. I don't like focusing on those. I don't like easing off the all or nothing pressure. I like to grind hard. I like to solve my problems with more hard work and determination, which, listen, that stuff's good. Like, that stuff's good. And we need that part of us. But it doesn't always lead to like satisfaction, contentment, meaning, purpose, happiness, joy, those types of things, which are very important spiritual signals of knowing myself. So if we're interested in utilizing the training and the competing as these spiritual prisms of self-knowledge, well, if I'm only ever in one discipline that is confirming to me the things that I'm already good at, then I'm actually limiting myself. I'm limited. So because the endurance world is set up nicely in this space and chase frame that I'm kind of presenting out here, once you get into the endurance world, like you might as well become a generalist. You might as well learn how to run ultras and you might as well learn how to figure out triathlon. Like it's pretty simple to me when thinking about this. Because if I'm naturally gravitated towards, say, like the power and the precision and the specificity of the Ironman or of the triathlon, well, that means that I should be open to what the ultra world can teach me because I may be a little more afraid of that world because it's not as familiar to me. So I actually need it to gain courage, and I need it for helping me shrink the gaps between the limits that I currently am at and the potential that I have if I just open myself up to growing and to messing around with learning in that area. This absolutely is just a podcast directed to myself. Holy moly. Holy moly, dude. That's really funny because I'm the space guy. I'm the guy who I wasn't in a competition for the first 9 years I was a trail runner. I didn't want to. I was anti competition. I was like, I don't want to be in the competition. I don't want the pressures of the chase. I just want the space. And within the space, I started chasing myself. So again, you're always going to be chasing. But I wasn't in, I never had the crucible of competition to sort of get that proper chase mechanism on out. This again is, and I just had an episode on this because I had to try to convince my group coaching guys that no, we actually do want to be inside of these formal competitions. We do want these formal structures. So I think that's episode 70. No, I think it's 68. Yeah, 68. So go back and take a look, take a listen to that one. Um, but I was only space and I wasn't giving enough proper recognition and respect to chase. And when you get in your first race and when you've had a couple of these formal race experiences, you recognize, man, this is a necessary component of it. This is why for the ancient Greeks, the ones who gave us sport as this moral paradigm, as this moral activity of self-knowing, this spiritual practice of self-knowing, you had to compete. Like you could never just train and be done with it. You had to enter the arena. You had to put it all on the line in public because that was ultimately where what you'd been working on was about to be revealed, right? Was about to be revealed. So once I started revealing the space part of me in the competitions, I started to notice gaps. I did a whole other podcast on this, like the race exposed my mental weakness, about the backyard ultra from 2 years ago. I don't know which episode that one was, but that's the title. The race exposed my mental weakness. Ooh, that wasn't an easy one to record. Certainly not an easy title to publish, but it was the truth. But it was the truth. And the truth is always in the training, guys. So now I'm this space athlete and I am having to figure out the chase part. I've got to get inside of the activity, which is more aligned to the what I think is the opposite disposition when it comes to endurance sports, the chase and the space. So as I'm now moving into the chase, as I'm moving more into we'll call it the right-brained portion of endurance, and feel free to just totally disagree with this, like contentions. If you're listening to this and you're like, you're so wrong, I want to invite you. We can have the discussion about chase versus space. Actually, whatever. If you disagree with anything you've ever heard on the pod and you want to have a debate on it, I'd love to have you on. Let's talk about it. That's Philosophy 101, baby. Um, so there you go. Open challenge to anybody, anytime. But what I am noticing is this obvious, like, oh, I see why people love this. I'm gaining a real appreciation for the control over the variables. Like the first time that I got on my bike, like the bike that I bought to train for triathlon and to race for triathlon, and I got onto the bike path out here and I started taking the turns and I started the gear shifting and recognizing the leverage. And I've biked a lot, so I have some embodied knowledge about biking. Not a cyclist, but I know how to bike. I just like was immediately struck with, man, I get why people love this. And it was the same thing that happened to me actually now I'm thinking about it. Another difference between the race and the space people, road running versus trail running. I don't I'm not interested in road running. I love trail running. I love trail running because it's never the same. You can go to the same trail 2 days in the same week, and it's not even the same. If it's rained, I had a dry trail, now I have a muddy trail. So my pacing expectations, there are no pacing expectations. Very rarely does one run get to compare to another run. They're all kind of hermetically sealed in their own experiences, which kind of precludes the chase element from stacking up in trail running, which is one of the reasons why, if you are a trail runner, it's very important to run the same route very often so you can at least get some sense of a baseline as to what you're doing. Because you still have chase in there, no matter how spaced you are. But in road running, it's like I started to road run because I recognized, hey, I'm running this backyard ultra where half of it's on the road. I should probably just become more comfortable with road running. And my overall strategy was actually to just fall in love with all running. So it's like, if I fall in love with running, then I'm going to love the idea of running all day, no matter where it is. And that's going to be a big piece of ammunition in my toolkit that I'm going to have to bring out at some point when I want to stop. But I recognize I probably shouldn't, because that's the whole point of that race. So when I'm out road running on these country roads for the first time, and you start to get that like rhythm, and the breath. This is a hint for the next podcast. Rhythm, breath, where I don't even think about my steps anymore. I'm just in flow. I can find the pace, and I can just live inside that pace. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I get why people get addicted to road running. And it was the same thing why I was like, oh, I see why certain people get addicted to the cycling. It's because they're in total control of the experience. They're in total control of the variable, and they can see their actions completely dominating and determining the outcome. Like if I'm cycling and I want to get more aero, or I want to gear shift, right? Or like I need to do like whatever. I'm totally in control, and I can make that happen. Same thing with road running, right? I can choose the route that's so conducive to exactly what I want to do in that effort. I don't have any of that in trail running. So if I'm going out there trail running, the chase is just not it for me in the first position, because it's really impossible for me to go out and chase on trails. It's more about the space. But in road running and in cycling, oh my gosh, the chase is ever present because I'm in control of the chase. And what that means is like, if I'm in control, then I'm much more responsible for my outcome. And that's a bit of a scary thing for a space person. That's a bit of a scary thing, because now we're orienting a little bit more of the experience towards the outcome. And we're placing a solid amount of weight on the veracity of the outcome, like the truth of it, in terms of, did I go fast or did I go slow? Which I think is good. That's a good pressure, so long as it can be properly situated within the overall meaning of the race. So if like your only value is the outcome, it doesn't matter if it's an ultra, it doesn't matter if it's an Ironman, you're not going to be satisfied. Okay. You're not going to be satisfied because you have such a small, narrow window of success that even when you hit it, it's like, it doesn't even matter. So it's like, cool, I hit the time target. Nobody cares about the time target, guys. Like nobody. They just care. You did an Ironman? You finished? Holy moly. You could tell them it took 17 hours. You could tell them it took 6 hours. They wouldn't even know the difference, most people. So like the time is not even the thing. It's not like an outcome oriented thing when I'm saying chase versus space. It's the ways in which I approach the events and the way in which the events condition me to find success within them. One of my deep beliefs is that the ways in which we move our body and are interested in moving our bodies are directly related to the virtues that are at once strong within us, but number two, where I need to improve. And this is why I think endurance is potentially a universal. I think everybody can be involved in endurance. Some people are going to be, I really like cycling and road running or swimming. I really like the expansive nature and the challenge, and I like everything in between. And I do think endurance maps most appropriately to our entire lives, which is why I think you can get incredible life wisdom from endurance, because my life feels like an ultra marathon. My life kind of feels like an Ironman with all these things happening all at once and so many things to take consideration of and the duration of it, right? And the fact that there's like all these lifetimes that I've got to live, you know, it just resembles life so much in the fact of, You're in it. You know it's going to end. Got to get through it. Got to do it the best we can. Type of thing. So then, really, like when we think about a chase sport versus a space sport in endurance, it's going to relate to the different types of things that I already am feeling on the inside, right? In a world where I feel like I'm bombarded with technology, where I feel like I'm bombarded with everybody else's opinions, where if I don't respond to a text within 10 seconds of the text coming in, that person's going to think I'm ignoring them. And I'm not an old guy. Maybe I am, turned 40 this year. Now, I remember growing up when you didn't even have an answering machine. It was a big deal to get an answering machine on your phone so that when somebody called and you weren't there, they could leave a message. Otherwise, they were just calling and you weren't there. I grew up in a time where it was disrespectful to call someone's house after 8 o'clock. Now it's like people are 24/7, like connected right to me with the cell phone. And so when I like gravitated towards trail running, there was a definite chase part of it that hooked me initially because I was running fast and I'm flying down this hill and I'm jumping over roots and rocks and like catching air and feeling myself alive and dynamic in motion. But it's also the fact that like I don't know how fast I'm going. I don't really know where I'm going. All I know is I'm lost in the forest and I am exhilarated. But endurance gives me the ability to know about myself, right? Because what endurance forces me to do is to always go until I want to quit. And then the effort starts. Endurance doesn't start when it's easy at the start. Endurance starts when I get that signal inside of me. I was like, man, you need to quit. And it's like, here we go. How do I get through it? How do I keep going? How do I get my body to respond? How do I get my mind onto the positive? How do I bring my spiritual willpower in my heart and the love of the activity that just going to make the adversity and the excuses are going to seem useless. The adversity is going to seem righteous, and I'm going to have to and want to go through it. And if I'm chasing, I'm going to get a different experience of that feeling versus if I'm spacing, I'm going to get a different part of it. And I need both. I need both of them. I need to figure out how to pursue the things that are meaningful to me. I have got to use my mind to eke out a 1% advantage, a 2% advantage, a 0.5% advantage. I got to metaphorically shave my legs for the watts, right? I got to learn this. I got to know how to leverage. I got to know how to actually get what I want. If sports are akin to the hunt, I got to hit the target and I got to be on it. Okay. So I got to chase it down. I need this. I need to be able to chase. However, I need the expanse of the space in order to know myself. I can't pressure the breakthrough or the self learning or the self knowledge to that training session or to this race or to that moment. I can't be determining it. I have to provide it a fertile ground to emerge, like what I'm doing in this podcast here. I didn't set out a plan. I didn't set out a structure, and a loose guiding idea and a name and a target, and we're moving our way towards it, and things are popping up. And it's like, how am I even going to go for 15 minutes? And now it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to stop myself in 15 minutes? Because I got a coaching call I got to get to. So ultimately, the space versus chase frame is very useful. It's very useful because it allows me to recognize, hey, what's like the natural? What's the thing I most seemingly gravitate towards within the larger realm of endurance sports? Oh, okay. I'm a space guy. Great. Nurture the space part of you. Foster that like love. Go there first, right? But then recognize you are going to be a limited person if you don't work on that other part, the part that's a little scary. And I've seen so much value in people from the chase part of the world coming into the space part, which is like my part. And I've helped them break open meaning and purpose of these activities, these training blocks, these races, these years of our lives into these powerful ways of self-knowing that I'm so interested to see what kind of happens the other way because I haven't really worked the other way. I have not really taken a space guy and moved him into the chase because that's not my area. It's not my expertise. It's not what I do. I'm the opener. Like Coach Ryan and I, we do 2-on-1 coaching, like on our team. We do mindset coaching. It's like kind of like a life coaching as well. But we're not the same coach. It's not, he says the same thing that I say. It's very different approaches, but we have the same belief. We have the same values and the same principles as to what we're all hoping to achieve. And the way it kind of works is like I'm the opener. I'm the guy who breaks open things. I create the open space for visions, for dreams, for understanding, for self realizations. And in that space, what Ryan does, like he's the closer. He's the one who gets directed into action as to what can I do today? What can I do tomorrow? How can I achieve this in the next month? How can we work towards making this real and alive in the next 6 months or year of your life? Which I also am, I do that with my one-on-ones, but that's not the particular skill that I bring to the equation. I'm the opener. I'm the one who gets you to be more of a believer in possibilities. And then in my coaching, I allow the person to walk out and I allow the emergence of the action to dictate where we're going to narrow. Ryan is like, no, here's where we have to go. He's got that instantaneous kind of like gut understanding. He's a chase guy. He's a chase guy. He knows the target and he wants to get there as quickly as possible. And that's a tremendously important skill and very valuable because we don't have a lot of time in this life. Once we identify where we want to get to, we got to go hard. We got to chase it. So when I'm thinking now about my own transition into the world of triathlon, it's to get a little bit more of that chase. It's to get a little bit more of that direct from here to there, from A to B, without the fluff. Like, sorry guys, we don't always need to be meandering and taking the path where we're smelling all the roses. Like we have to take that path. Maybe that's the most important big path in my life. But within that, there's times where I just got to go quickly from A to B. And I have to make a decision and I have to know that it's maybe not going to work out, but I'll fix it even if I don't. So I need radical self-courage, I need radical self-belief, I need radical assurance in my identity. And sometimes I just got to chase. I just got to go hard. And I'm not suggesting that I don't prompt my guys to do this or myself, but if I'm the space guy, it means that that's not my inclination. That's not the thing I automatically will go to. And so my next breakthrough, my next level up is going to be in that area. 2026 is the year of opportunity for me. One of the opportunities is being able to do all these races because I'm living in the United States. I can travel to the races that are oriented around our team. Here's another thing about me. I don't want to do any of these races alone. I could care less about chasing anything by myself. I'm a group chaser. I'm a team sport guy. Like I played hockey. Loyalty, teamwork is like the number one thing in ice hockey. So I get to do these team races in this individual sport, which I would never do by myself. So big time opportunity to do 70.3, which is coming up in May, and the full Ironman, which is coming up in November. Still haven't signed up for the full Ironman yet, but I am in. I'm in the one that matters, which is the next one. To me, what it's signaling is like learn some chasing lessons. Go put yourself in a chasing environment. Figure out some of those skills that you maybe need to improve to make yourself a better athlete, a better I like more self-knowledge of myself, more self-leadership for myself, which in turn is going to make me a better coach, both on the team. Certainly it's going to make me a better coach on travel training if I've done the triathlons that I'm helping other guys prepare for in terms of like their mindset and their heart stance and giving them a few physical pointers, but certainly much more adept at giving physical advice in the ultra world, where I've done like 6 of these now. Um, so this is like a very exciting development. And maybe the overall arch of this space versus chase exploration has nothing to do with this dichotomy. Maybe it just has everything to do with my tag, which is the truth is in the training. Like the truth is always in the training. You're always going to find out something that's real when you're training. And I think this space versus chase dichotomy is real, but it's not like 100% accurate. Like it's got holes in it. There's flaws in the argument and in the presentation. Assuredly, there's flaws in the presentation because I didn't even structure anything around this. I'm just talking off the dome and coming from my heart. So I think there's truth here, but it's not like 100% bulletproof truth. I invited somebody to come and debate me on this. Like, come on, guys, that's how it works. Um, that's how it works here. So ultimately, then the takeaway from this whole podcast is like, you really should be utilizing physical training and competition as a ruthless form of self-evaluation and self-knowing, not just for the physical, but in like this spiritual and mental. It's even more important. It's even more valuable because in so many ways, I'm not able to access the truth about myself. Certainly not with the mind, with the way it tricks me, with the way it gives me shortcuts, with the way it plies my ego with fake pride and baseless judgments and accusations onto other people as a way to shield myself from the hard self judgment that I should be focusing on. And the more you kind of give a serious credence and a serious weight to these activities that you're spending lots of time and energy to do in terms of physical training, like even if you are a low level trainer, like maybe what, 2.5, 3 hours a week, that's a tremendous amount of time. That's a tremendous amount of time that you could be doing something else with. And if you're using that time to then train for competition, it's going to be more time. And then you're going to be devoting resources like monetary, time, energy to go to these things and to like to go after it, to chase, to get the space. Why? It's for this reason. It's that so that you can better know yourself. So you can see where, man, I'm falling back into a comfortable pattern. Oh, I'm relying on something I'm naturally good at and putting it forward as if I'm working hard to get it. Like I'm not really doing the hard work of growing myself, of exposing myself to the difficult situations, of using the righteous adversity and the struggle to really put myself under the microscope. And ultimately, I think that's what's going on here with this space versus chase. I started talking about this as like a way you could define any two people or any kind of person who comes into the endurance world space. But I really just talked about myself, didn't I? I really just talked about myself and the challenge that's ahead of me moving into different endurance sports than I'm comfortable with. I've had a lot of nightmares about cycling in the last 2 weeks, not going to lie. Not because I'm afraid of biking. It's because of the ways in which it's going to force me to grow, to care about things that I would normally just throw away. Like, and I'm either gonna live by the sword or die by the sword. You know, when it comes to training, I'm kind of a punk rocker. I don't really need to know how to play the instruments. I don't really need to know the theory. I don't even need to know read music. But if I can make the sounds that I want to make, hey, that's all that matters to me. On a bike, that might not be good enough. We'll find out. We'll find out. Like the race will expose me. And the 70.3 coming up for the Ironman is a good test. I'm not afraid of the distance. I'm not afraid of the challenge. I'm afraid of the type of person that I need to become in order to really do a good job at this event. So there's a couple of copes in there, right? It's like, all right, well, if I just never become a gearhead, then I'll go slower than everybody on the bike. And sitting here, that sounds okay, but what if it's like I'm 2.5 hours in on the bike and I'm getting smoked by people and I still have too much time to go and I'm starting to get dejected and I'm starting to feel badly about myself? It's like, well, dude, if you would have just taken like 30 minutes to learn a little bit more about how your bike operates and maybe you switched out one or two things, like your whole experience would have been better. You would have got that high leverage and you would be chasing the right thing. I guess we'll go and see because I'm effectively going to be doing this first 70.3 as a space athlete. And we'll see if that's a good idea or not. Certainly, it's not a great idea for the full Ironman. That's going to be a bigger challenge, but that's up for me to go and experience. And ultimately, this is what you need out there. So the big takeaway for you is like, hey, when you're training, it's not just the body that's getting worked out here. Your mind and your spirit are being exercised in profoundly deep ways that are intriguing, that are exploratory, that are adventurous, that are windows into yourself that you're not going to get in any other activity that you do in this life. And we should respect and appreciate that knowledge. We should respect and appreciate that knowledge. And I've just been training in endurance sports for the past dozen years. So that's the language that I know. That's what's being spoken to me. That's what I'm a little bit fluent in. And I'm going to become more fluent in it. But I did mention off the top that this might be a two-parter, and we're 1,000% going to appendix this with another episode, which is going to be on these deeper elements. So it's like, why? Why does endurance sport become this great place for me to know about myself, where I can see these two parts, the chase and the space, living harmoniously, but kind of at odds with each other? Why can I find this paradox? Why can I find this truth within me? And I will tease you. I will tease you for the next episode. It has a little bit to do with what I was talking about with that road running, with the rhythm and the breath. With the rhythm and the breath. The two patterns that all physical activities share. The two patterns that all physical activities share. Funny that I came up with this a lot was trail running. Not funny. Pretty obvious. Every single exercise is just a breathwork practice. All exercise does is get me really in tune with my breath. And not just sporadic breath, but rhythmic. So it's the combination of rhythm and breath that gives us the true value in terms of physical, spiritual, and mental understanding when it comes to sports, physical activity, and competition. So the next episode, I'm going to go deep into this idea of the breath and the rhythm as these separate yet conjoined dualistic elements of physical activity that are the foundational building blocks of how we use these as knowing tools. Self-knowing, but then consciousness, spiritual knowing, where we're all going, where we all came from. How deep does it go? Every time I think I got the answer, there's way more levels to this. So that's where we're going to go in the next episode. For you today, be a believer. Be a believer that you can know way more about yourself than you've ever imagined through paying attention and having direct intention with your training, with your competing, as these powerful spiritual knowing practices. That's what the dichotomy of space versus chase shows me. Peace and love, everybody. Again, if you're interested in how I take these concepts and I help people smash through limiting thought patterns, limiting identity beliefs, limiting everything that's internal, you'll find my information down in the show notes. I wish you guys nothing but success. Let's keep winning together, team. Peace and love. And thank you to my Substack people. Appreciate this you hanging out with me today. It's always a fun experiment. I'm going to see what it looks like as a recording. And I really like this live energy. Either I'm posting on Substack or over on Twitter. We're going to keep this going because this is a lot of fun. And there's a different, just like in the competition, there's a different energy that's created when you know you're live and people are watching. And if you mess up, well, it's just all out there. So peace and love, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Boom.